Yes, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Muhammad Zishan Sarwar, and I am currently working as an associate professor in a surgical ward, King Edward Medical University, Lahore. Today's topic of discussion is regarding different study designs. Uh, what we will be discussing today is we will try to understand what are the different types of study designs. Whenever you want to study designs, you will come across this picture, a very detailed one and a very descriptive one. uh, in the first look, what you can see that it is divided into descriptive studies and analytical studies. Descriptive studies are further divided into case report, case series, and cross sectional studies. And analytical studies are either observational or experimental. Either they are having some intervention, which is experiment, or they are just observational without any experiment, but they are analytical. They are not simple descriptive. So, analytical descriptive studies are either cohort or case control studies, and analytical experimental, they are randomized control trial and quasi experimental. In today's lecture, we will be trying to understand what are these different study designs, and we will be focusing on this one. We will start this lecture with a bedtime story, basically. Uh, uh, in 1960, Castle was a pediatric Castle who presented in a pediatric meeting two cases of gross limb malformation of unusual pattern. So it was a case of unusual pattern. It was not a routine case, and he presented this case in a pediatric meeting. So what he has done actually is he basically reported a case report. This he has written a case report. Basically, it is a case of unusual pattern. Later on, in 1961, another scientist presented 13 cases of gross limb malformation of unusual pattern over a period of 10 months. So he collected similar 13 cases, though they were of unusual pattern, but they were 13 cases, and he reported these 13 cases. So what he has actually done, he presented basically a case series, a number of cases of unusual pattern. Some people say that a number of cases should be labeled as a case series irrespective of their unusual pattern, but it's a controversial area. But for the sake of simplicity, we should say that a number of cases with unusual pattern should be labeled as a case series. Now, in order to generate an evidence or in order to say what's going on in these cases, or in order to generate more evidence from these cases, what's going on in these cases, what should be the next step? So what should be your next step in order to further probe this problem? What we can do that we will design a questionnaire, and we will write variables which will include mother's demography, mother's comorbid conditions, and mother's environmental factors. Because we know that these somewhere problem should be here somewhere in mother's demography, or mother's comorbid conditions, or mother's environmental factors that may have led to the birth of these gross limb malformation babies. So we will design a questionnaire, and we'll write all these variables, and we will start data collection. So we will start filling this questionnaire for these newborns with gross limb malformations. keeping in mind what is mother's demography, what are mother comorbid conditions, what are the mother's environmental factors. So after collecting a data in this format, in 1961, another scientist, Lenz, suggested that these malformations, gross limb malformations, they are seen more commonly in mothers who are taking a drug which is called as thalidomide. So they couldn't find anything from mother's demography, from mother's comorbid, but some environmental factor. Some mothers who were taking thalidomide, they were seems to be more associated with gross limb malformation. So what Lenz did was a cross-sectional study. What Lenz did was a cross-sectional study. A little bit of the thalidomide. Thalidomide was a drug developed by a German firm as an anticonvulsant drug, but early trials showed it unsuitable for this indication, but this drug showed good sedative properties. So it was marketed by the name of Contergan in 1957 in Germany as a sedating or sleeping pill, and as a sleeping pill it's used, and then it resulted in gross limb malformation. Now coming back to our slides, what is a cross-sectional study actually? So this cross-sectional study gave us the results that the prevalence of gross malformation is more in mothers who are taking thalidomide. So we prepared a questionnaire including some variables from mother's demography, from mother's comorbid condition, and mother's environmental factors. And we collected data from all the mothers who gave birth to gross limb malformation babies. And after collecting the data and analyzing it, it was all the data at one time data. So after collecting the data, we came to the conclusion that there is prevalence of gross malformation was seen more in mothers who are taking thalidomide. This is a cross-sectional study design. Cross-sectional study design presents a data at one specific point of time. We went to the mothers and asked to fill the questionnaire. We collected the data at that specific point of time. Cross-sectional studies can determine the prevalence only. These are the prevalence studies only. These are easy and fast to conduct. There is no loss to follow-up. This is a one-time data. Association may be determined from the cross-sectional study, but we cannot determine cause and effect relationship with the help of cross-sectional studies. Now, what should be the next step? We want to improve the level of evidence. We reached to the evidence level of cross-sectional study. What should be the next step? Now what we can do is we can collect the data. Data is collected at the time of birth of the newborn, and the mothers were asked about the history of the thalidomide. It's a retrospective pattern. So we collected the data at the time of birth of the newborn. We were at the time of birth of the newborn, and mothers were asked about the history of thalidomide which they used during pregnancy. So it's a retrospective pattern. And what we will get? Babies with gross limb malformation, either having the mothers using thalidomide, or there may be mothers who are not using thalidomide, but they gave birth to gross limb malformation newborns. Similarly, a data is collected from healthy newborns as well, and similarly their mothers they have either used thalidomide or they haven't used thalidomide. And with this data we try to calculate the odds ratio. So we have made two groups. We have collected the data in a retrospective manner. and we haven't done any intervention. We are just doing observation that those mothers who are using thalidomide, what happened to their babies. So at the end we will make a 2 by 2 table, mother using thalidomide and not using thalidomide, and diseased newborns and healthy newborns. And with these figures we will calculate the odds ratio, and we can say that there is a 3.4 times increased risk of developing gross limb malformation in children of mother who are taking thalidomide as compared to the mothers who are not using it. And what we have done in this data, this is a case control study. So we have improved the evidence from cross-sectional study to the case control study. And what case control studies are? The only difference between the cross-sectional study and the case control study is inclusion of the inclusion of the control group. There was a group with newborns of gross limb malformation along with the mothers who are using thalidomide. We have included another group with the healthy babies and asked the history of thalidomide from their mothers. So we have entered only a control group in the cross-sectional study, and this cross-sectional study, by the virtue of the control group, is converted into a case control study. It is a retrospective data collection. There is no intervention, only observation. We haven't asked anyone to use thalidomide. It's just an observation. They are using on their own. In case control studies, there are recall and sample bias, as you have to ask from the patient about the history of using thalidomide. So there could be a recall or sample bias. We can establish an association by calculating the odds ratio using case control study, but cause and effect relationship cannot be determined by case control studies. Next step, we have done the case control study. How can we further improve the level of evidence? Now, the data is collected from the start of pregnancy, not from the end of pregnancy. Now the data is collected from the start of pregnancies, and mothers taking the thalidomide were followed in a prospective manner. Control group is also followed, comprising of mothers who are not taking thalidomide. So from this study design, we have started data collection from the start of pregnancy, and we are moving in a prospective fashion. So we have made two groups, mothers who are using thalidomide and mothers who are not using thalidomide. And again, both groups can have a newborns with gross limb malformation as well as healthy babies. And we will try to calculate the relative risk in this case. So again, a 2 by 2 table, and at the end a relative risk is calculated, and we can say that mothers on thalidomide are at 37 times more risk of developing abnormal babies as compared to the mothers who are not using it. What this is, it is a cohort study design. We have two groups. There was no intervention, only observation, and we moved in a prospective manner for data collection. This is a cohort study design. It is a prospective data collection. There is no intervention, only observation. We haven't asked anyone to use thalidomide. We can establish the association by calculating relative risk and odds ratio by using cohort studies, but cause and effect relationship cannot be determined. Next step. Next step, to improve the level of evidence. What we can do? Pregnant females, they are randomly divided into two groups. One group was given thalidomide, and other group was given a placebo. Thalidomide group showed more gross malformations. This is a randomized controlled trial. But do you think it is ethically justified? A drug which has produced a level of evidence of cohort study design and saying that it is a dangerous drug and it produces gross limb malformation, and we are asking for the patient to use this drug as we are doing a randomized controlled trial? No, it's not ethically justified. This means this study evidence up to a cohort study design is a maximum evidence that we can generate on this topic. We cannot produce an RCT or any other interventional study design on this topic. Just in order to understand the Cauchy experimental study design from the same example, just for the sake of understanding, it cannot be done because it's not ethically justified. You should understand what are the differences between RCT and Cauchy experimental study design. One can differ from my opinion, but it is my opinion just to keep things more simplified and more easy to memorize. RCT and Cauchy experimental study design, these are both intervention and experimental studies. You should be doing some intervention in RCT and Cauchy experimental study design. RCT will be labeled as a Cauchy experimental study design if an RCT lacks a randomization and an RCT lacks a control group. This means Cauchy experimental study design is an interventional or experimental study design. There is an intervention going on, but intervention is being done without randomization, or it is a single group. So if you are calculating the outcome of laparoscopic appendectomy in terms of pain and you haven't had any control group, then this can be labeled as a Cauchy experimental study design, because it is there is no control group and you are doing an intervention of laparoscopic appendectomy. Similarly, if you have made two groups of laparoscopic, one is laparoscopic appendectomy and one is conventional appendectomy, but you haven't randomized the patients in between the two groups, then again it is a Cauchy experimental study design. There should be some intervention, but it lacks randomization and control group. So Cauchy experimental study design, with the example that we are discussing earlier, that mothers are given thalidomide and outcome is noted as a single group. There should not be a control group. Then it could be labeled as a Cauchy experimental study design. Or we can make two groups but the randomization should not be there, then again it could be labeled as a Cauchy experimental study design. But because of ethical issues, this experimental study design cannot be executed, and the level of evidence up to a cohort level study design is justified. So just to recap, descriptive studies are just a description of the data. Analytical studies are observational. They are observational as there is no intervention, but there is some analysis is going on in terms of relative risk or odds ratio. That's why they are analytical and observational. And analytical experimental means the analysis is being done, but there is some intervention as well. So just to summarize, case report is always an unusual case. Case report is number of similar cases. Some people say that it's similar cases of unusual case, or some says that is a number of similar cases. Cross-sectional is prevalence or burden of the problem. Case control or cohort will give you an association between two variables, and RCT will give you a cause and effect relationship. So just an exercise. Prevalence of hepatitis B in cardiology outdoor of Mayo Hospital. The study design should be, it's a prevalence study, so it should be a cross-sectional study design. Outcome of PTFE stent in single vessel disease. So you can do this thing by different study designs, and it will depend on your methodology. If you are working in a cardiology unit and you are picking up the patient of single vessel disease and then inserting a PTFE stent and then looking at the outcome, then it could be labeled as a quasi experimental study design. There is an intervention and there is a single group. Some people say that the quasi experimental study design and case series are the same thing. This is also a controversy. So PTFE, if you are working in a cardiology ward and you are using a PTFE stent and looking at the outcome, then you are doing an intervention and you are looking at the outcome. It's a single group, then it's a quasi experimental study design. But if you are working in a cardiology unit, you are not asking anyone to pass this PTFE stent in this patient specifically. You just observed the data collection. You just picked up the files, or you just looking at the patient with single vessel disease and pick up only those patients of single vessel disease who have an PTFE stent placed inside. You haven't asked anyone to pass PTFE stent. You just observe what is going on, what's the ward's policy. So if you are doing it in this manner, then you are doing something with case control or cohort study design. So it will depend on the methodology that your objective is will be fulfilled with which type of study design. Similarly, association of smoking with carcinoma lung, you can do it with the case control study, you can do it with cohort study design, but you cannot do it with the experimental study design. You cannot ask someone to smoke just for study purpose. Comparison of PTFE stent versus normal stent in patients with single vessel disease. It should be in a randomized control trial, but if there is no randomization, then it could be a quasi experimental study design as well. Thank you very much.